The 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers, 24. Los Angeles Rams, 17. Steelers, much like the Browns, moved to 4-2. In another one where you come out of... The first comment in the YouTube chat today was, how did the Steelers win?
It's every week.
Every single week. But yeah, Kenny Pickett and George Pickens once again make plays down the stretch.
Yep.
And TJ Watt didn't do a whole lot as a pass rusher, but had an outstanding interception to kick off the second half. Great play. Really a great play. Just a simple little return route, a little in and out route, and Watt, who was dropping into coverage on a 3-man rush, just boom, jumps it like a DB. Awesome play by TJ Watt, and that facilitated the Steelers' comeback.
Yeah, it's also this was like an encapsulation of both team seasons. The Steelers somehow are in these games where you're like, how are they winning this game? And then the Rams, for as well as Stafford is playing and as well as some of the receivers make plays, they don't actually score. So, like, when you look at Matthew Stafford's stats for the season, it's like you were talking about how you don't even look at guys' sort of box score numbers, right?
Yeah.
I looked at Stafford's during the week, and it's like, what? He's got like 5 touchdowns, 6 now, right?
Yeah, we broke it down on the preview show. I can't believe Stafford's stats are that bad.
Right. The idea that Stafford doesn't have like 15 touchdowns this season is insane given how he's been playing. So, again, Stafford's out here. There's a few nice passes. Puka Nacua is making crazy plays. There's a few ridiculous plays left, right, and center. And you're like, but they're not actually scoring.
Yeah.
And the longer that goes on, the more chance there is that Pittsburgh does and eventually, is leading the game and then wins.
It is just, from that perspective of, watching multiple games at the same time, it did feel like every time I'm looking up, Puka Nacua is making a play. He had another ridiculous catch along the sideline. Another, the toe heel moment, Sam, that you like to talk about.
Such a stupid rule.
But also Puka just looks fast, too. I mean, again, the Rams scored 17 points and they lost the game. So I don't want to sit here and, just talk them up like they just scored 30 and won. But Puka looked even better than he did earlier in the season, outrunning Now, the defense finishes with a $154 on 8 catches.
He out-targeted Cooper Kupp by a distance. He had double the number of targets Cooper Kupp did.
Kupp had a 24-yarder in there, a couple drops early on, back-to-back drops.
Right. But remember, people were, as soon as Cooper Kupp gets back, Nacua is going to disappear. They quite clearly, can coexist. And actually, in a game like this, Nacua ends up getting 12 targets to Kupp's 6, and obviously had way more production as well, in part because of Kupp's drops. But not only can they coexist, but Nacua can still be the primary receiver in a given game.
This was also one of the games where our pregame narrative wasn't necessarily correct. The Rams' offensive line didn't necessarily collapse. Like I said, TJ Watt was not a dominant pass rusher in this game whatsoever. Nick Herbig, Nick Herbig comes in, gets a nice sack early on. But other than that, the Rams' offensive line played great, or played well from a pass pro standpoint. That's usually what helps the Rams' offense collapse. But yeah, the Steelers made big plays. The TJ Watt thing was huge, that interception. And then offensively, again, why does it feel uncomfortable? Because the Steelers' offense kind of trudges along for much of the game, and then basically Jaylen Warren makes some plays and George Pickens makes some plays, and that's the other. I think that's the other part that makes it. And Deontay Johnson with a huge play, in the comeback attempt. Deontay Johnson coming back is a big boost for this team. We mentioned that he's usually in a possession type of role, but he has that big gain on in the fourth quarter. For the Steelers, George Pickens has a huge gain when the Steelers are trying to run out the clock, when they're leading. We'll get to the last play, the QB sneak, to end the game in a minute. But for what you want to say about the Steelers' offense schematically, it still comes down to when Pickens makes plays on the outside and you have Deontay Johnson and you have Jaylen Warren making some plays, that's when they look much better. That's part of the reason why we kind of liked the Steelers before the season, because we know these playmakers are effective.
Yeah, that is the story for Pittsburgh this year, is that the scheme is still rough. The scheme is bad. But they do have a really good collection of playmakers, and they're deep as well. Like, okay, sometimes these guys don't look great when players are missing, or they're sort of artificially high on the depth chart or the pecking order relative to where they should be. But like Connor Hayward made some plays in this game as well, and when they've got Pickens, Hayward, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris is still a good player, Jalen Warren, Calvin Austin barely played in this game, but we've seen the plays that he can make earlier in the season. This is a good collection of talented playmakers that can cause real problems for anybody, and they can overcome bad scheme. Like, they can just win one-on-one. There are schemes out there that don't put their players in a particularly good position, but basically just go, this is what we do. Go out there and beat your guy. And that's kind of what the Steelers are asking these guys to do. And they're good enough to get that done sometimes. But when it works, it looks good because they're able to just, like, George Pickens is a beast when the ball goes in his general direction. And even in this game, like, he ends up with over 100 yards and makes a few plays. He was really close to making another couple as well.
Yeah. And Pickens, he looks faster, a little bit quicker this year as well. He's not just a contested catch guy this year. Remember, he started off terrible with the contested catches, but it's back, right? And what are the big plays the Steelers had? Back shoulder to Pickens. Pickett makes a great throw up the seam to Pickens with about 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Under pressure, gets the ball to him. And I mentioned that Deontay Johnson play, beginning of the fourth quarter, Pickett hits him, and Deontay Johnson runs away from the defense for a 39-yarder. And that was when the Steelers only had 10 points. Right, so they're down 17-10. Deontay Johnson makes the big play, gets them into range. Jalen Warren finds the end zone. So, yeah, to me, the story is Steelers playmakers make some plays, and they did just enough defensively to take Kupp out of the game. Puka Nacua got his, but the Rams are the team that's starting to look decent on paper as far as Stafford, as playmakers, the way Stafford's throwing the ball. But, to your point, they're not able to find the end zone whatsoever. And then the final sequence of the game, Steelers go for it. There was a lot of these, Sam. There was a lot of these.
Just before that, though. So it's 3rd and 8. He took a shot to Deontay Johnson. Witherspoon breaks it up, and they call pass interference on it, which looked like a pretty weak pass interference call.
I thought that was a really bad pass interference call.
Yeah. Anyway, that's basically the game, that first down. But then Deontay Johnson gets flagged for taunting on that pass interference call, which makes it, now it's an offsetting call. Now it's a do-over, and it doesn't count. They went from game's basically done, you just got a first down through pass interference, to it's offsetting penalties, we do 3rd and 8 all over again. That is one of the worst penalties you will see anybody commit in the course of an NFL season. So they go for it again, 3rd and 8. They only pick up 7. And now you're in that 4th and 1 situation where you decide, do we go for it, try and pick up the first down and end the game?
Where do they need to get to? I'm trying to rewatch this play. So Pickett goes QB sneak. At this time, the Rams have no timeouts. So it's 2:24 left in the fourth quarter. So the Steelers are in this position, which we see a lot during the week now, or during the, every single week. One play away from winning. It's 4th down. It wasn't in their own territory or anything. It was on the fringe of field goal range. It wasn't a crazy decision by Tomlin. It was pretty reasonable. And it looks like Pickett just falls straight down to the ground. He kind of looked short.
Yeah.
They called him short initially, right?
I think so.
And then they said, nope, got it. And the Rams couldn't challenge. Because the play clock, the game clock, goes down to 2 minutes. But the play itself was not inside of 2 minutes, so it's not an automatic challenge. And the Rams had no timeout, so they couldn't challenge it.
He looked way short, and I couldn't work out whether the spot was bizarrely generous or the unofficial first down line on the TV was just way off, which you see every now and again, right? The yellow line, they've just got it drawn like half a yard in the wrong place.
Right.
I don't know if that was the case or if they gave him a bizarrely generous spot, but he went down. Like he did the Matthew Stafford sneak, right? Where the quarterback just kind of like drops instead of like burrowing forward.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It didn't look like he got it at all. And then somehow they gave him the first down. Game over.
He got in the end zone on a sneak earlier. That was a sneak, right? The Pickett's earlier touchdown. Remember last year it was like, wow, the Steelers' offense is so good now they can sneak it. It added this whole new dimension because Kenny Pickett is a QB sneak guy. Big Ben would never do that. But yeah, this wasn't his best sneak, but apparently it still worked. So our preseason Steelers hype was correct, Sam. They're 4-2.
The first sneak, by the way, kind of did a similar thing. Like his sneak technique appears to be to just kind of launch himself low. Just generally throw yourself towards the B gap.
He's got some spastic movements. A little spastic sneaker. But it worked.
You should go watch his touchdown sneak. It's pretty funny.
That's what. He's kind of like when Sam Howell runs. Let me go check it out again. Let's all watch it together.
Let's all watch it, except nobody else.
Except nobody can see it.
And me.
Yeah. When I was watching him yesterday, that did kind of come to mind. Like he's kind of crazy looking.
It's not the best sneak technique in the world. In fact, it looks like he's been watching Matthew Stafford's sneak technique, which is the worst thing you can possibly do.
What is that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not great.
So the touchdown one, it was because who was it? Sayamalu actually makes a decent block on it. So I think he was he was waiting for contact and it wasn't there. He tried to throw his shoulder into a defensive tackle who didn't exist because the block was actually good. No, that was a good B gap sneak. This is why I'm saying you don't necessarily need the tush push, right? You have multiple sneak techniques. You can A gap it. If A's taken, you can go B.
Well, remember, there was a period of time where Tom Brady was unstoppable just on the quarterback sneak. We didn't need.
This is what I'm saying. You have multiple techniques.
Right.
You can burrow on the goal line. You can go over the top.
But wasn't there?
You can go B gap, and if all of that's taken, you can run wide zone. That's your QB sneak package.
The Eagles are running this thing at a 90% success rate, right? Wasn't Brady ahead of that for most of his career, just in terms of regular quarterback sneaks? Nobody was campaigning to ban the quarterback sneak just because Brady was unstoppable.
Well, they want to ban this for injury purposes.
No, that's what they're saying. They want to ban it. Nobody actually wants to ban it for injury purposes. Everyone wants to ban it because the Eagles are too good at it.
Because it's boring. It's boring.
We're going to dress this up as a safety concern.
Football players don't like rugby.
We're going to dress this up as a safety concern. But really, the problem is we don't like that the Eagles are doing it and we don't like the play.